All right, we're going to begin. We did finish the quota for this week yesterday. So you're going to ask me, what are we doing today? So there's two things. First of all, I want to give a basic recap of the entire week so that you understand what's going on, so that when you reread it, you will be able to understand what's flying. We will be going through a few Rashis and perhaps even a few Tosfos. Yeah. As a matter of fact, after our class yesterday, when we had a massive argument between me, Yehuda, Shmuel, on various different topics, I actually went to reading some of the Tosfos, and it was like the Tosfos was in this class talking at the same time as we were. Right?
You're on the right track.
It's always on the right track. By the way, it's very important. If you are a good Talmudist, you will notice that the commentaries are coming up with your same questions and perhaps answers to those questions as well. Right? Because you have to realize that Talmud is a system of logic. It is not some magical concept. Yes, we do believe that perhaps the people that wrote the comments here had Ruach HaKodesh, which is divine, divine spirit. But what that essentially meant is that their minds were directed by God to come to conclusions. However, the conclusions themselves are built on a logic. Now, the better you understand the logic of the Talmud, the more you're going to see how you are consistently coming up with questions and perhaps answers to those questions that are consistent with Tosfos, Rashi, and the other commentaries. As a matter of fact, I had there was an individual who I knew whose father was a well-known rabbi, a great sage in his own right, and this particular person told me as follows. He said that his father says to him all the time that today I think I found an original idea to work on from the Talmud. And then a day later he comes to him and says, I found that some other rabbi wrote it in a book 300 years ago. And then the next day he's like, now I think I found something original. I have an original question, never dealt with, no one ever thought of it, and it has to, obviously it's an accurate question. And a couple days later, he's like, I found it in another commentary. So it is a good thing. It is. What's that? Correct. And as a matter of fact, you should know what you just said is more important than what I said before. In my personal experience, you have no idea how many times I was reading a Gamara, a Talmudic passage, and I see a question and something just doesn't make sense. I'm like, okay, so it must be Tosfos speaks about it. I look at Tosfos, doesn't speak about it. I look at Rashi, doesn't speak about it. I look at some of the other commentators, no one speaks about it.
You misunderstood the Gemara.
Right? And then I realized I misunderstood the whole Gemara, so it's me. So it's a good indication. If you have a really good question on the Gemara and no commentators speak about it, chances are you misunderstood what's going on. But by the way, it's a good indicator. It's a good. Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. Oh, I don't know what's going on. No, it's a good indicator. Sometimes in the Gemara, it's such a deep logic that you need some indication whether you're on the right track or not. One of the ways to know you're on the right track is if you have a question on the Gemara and Tosfos have the same question, means you understood the Gemara well enough to ask a question that Tosfos asked, which means that you're on the right track. Right? Whereas if you ask a question and no one else asks it, you know that you have to rethink whether you understood the Gemara to begin with. Understand?
It's better to know that you're wrong than to not know that you're wrong.
Correct. It's better to, so one of my teachers once says, the only thing worse than thinking you're wrong is knowing you're wrong. Meaning knowing something and you're wrong. You know what I'm saying? You understand? If you think you're wrong, okay, sorry, I actually misquoted it. Meaning, if you think, the only thing worse than thinking you're right is knowing you're right when you're not.
Knowing wrong.
Yeah, knowing you're wrong. Yeah. So again, it's important to have good indicators, which is, by the way, philosophically, it's a very important piece of philosophy to think in general, is that you can come up with a very compelling argument, a logic, or whatever it is, and it's always good to have indicators whether or not it's right or wrong. If you don't have things to bounce it off and to double check, you could mess it up. As a matter of fact, when I was once working and I was told to make a spreadsheet that made a very complicated calculation. Anybody that uses Excel, a spreadsheet, you know how these things work, and they go back and forth, and this is calculating that, and that calculating that. And it was a very complicated mathematical equation that I had to figure out there. And I put together the sheet. And it generally worked, but it was constantly coming up with mistakes. Like there was all constant errors that were happening. What I did was I made each calculation 3 times from 3 different angles, and then I made the spreadsheet calculate if those 3 equations equated each other.
Yeah.
Right? And if they were all equal, fine. And if they were, something like that. And if it was all good,
If same equals / true.
if they were all equal, then it was true. If it was not equal, it was false. And once I did that, once I double-checked my equation from different angles and different ways, then I stopped having mistakes at all. Like I never had mistakes. Once I did it three calculations separate from different angles, never had a problem again. Could you use my cookie? I don't have my cookies in my jacket. Forget about it. No cookies today. Anyways, let's begin from the beginning of this week's Gemara, which we started with an inquiry, Bo Minei, which I told you already in the past. Bo Minei, you know what Bo Minei is as a keyword. I want you to underline it because I didn't bold them this in the sheets. Bo Minei is a very important keyword. Anytime you have that inquiry, it is a new inquiry. It's something fresh. It's something that we did not yet discuss this in the Gamara, right? Yes, it is on topic. It is an inquiry regarding what we are talking about. However, this particular inquiry is not been discussed, and it's kind of a new discussion entirely. Yeah? Kanai Nahara. Where's all our people online? We have one person online. That's it. What's wrong? That's probably you on your phone, right? No? Horrible. Anyways, what can you do, you know? Yeah, that's probably him on his phone. Are you on your phone with it? Huh? What? Oh, good. So they actually have a person. Can I know it? All right. Let's continue. The inquiry it's an important keyword. Bo Minei is they asked from Ravina asked from Rav Nachman. He asked him a simple question: what happens if you do not say the blessing on Kiddush Friday night? Do you say that blessing on Saturday day? Right? And he answered absolutely unequivocally, yes. You are meant to say that blessing at least one time, or only one time, every Shabbat, every Sabbath. And if you did not say it Friday night, you could and you should be saying it on the day. Correct. Okay, so that was his statement. Okay, they asked him a question, he gives an answer. You think that's so simple? Right? A rabbi asks a question, a rabbi gives an answer, and it's done. Chas v'shalom. Then the rabbi that got the rabbi that asked the question, that got the answer, is now challenging the rabbi that answered the question and saying, hold on a second, is your answer in fact accurate? Now I just want to give you a little bit of historical and cultural context to this, is that Ravina was also a great rabbi. That's why I say a rabbi asked another rabbi a question. Now you have to realize that both Ravina and Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak were both great sages, and they were both brilliant, and they both were masters of the entire Talmud. And therefore, when Ravina asked the question, it's very likely that when Ravina asked the question, he already knew the possible answer of Rav Yitzchak. But the reason why he asked the question anyways is because he had a question on that answer. And it could be that these questions that he's throwing at Rav Yitzchak, it's almost like, listen, I analyzed this situation too, and I thought of what you thought of too. The only thing is I thought of these refutations to why you shouldn't really think that way. And therefore, he is putting back at Rav Yitzchak. He's asking Rav Yitzchak, challenging this, how would you call it? This suggestion, this conclusion. Okay? So again, Ravina is challenging the conclusion. He challenges him in, I think, what do we say, 2 separate ways. I don't think we challenged him more than... Actually 3. He challenges him with 2 separate authoritative challenges. Yeah, two, and then one logical one. Okay, so in this week's Gemara we have two authoritative challenges and one logical challenge, and as you know, there's a massive difference between a logical challenge and an authoritative challenge. An authoritative challenge is when I bring an authority that contradicts you, right? Now, you do not have the right to argue with that authority. What you could do is you could try to argue how to interpret that authority that it shouldn't be rejecting your opinion, right? But you cannot reject the logic of that authority. That is not an option that is available to an Amaraic sage, right? Good. So, the first challenge, again, an Amaraic sage is challenged by authority of the Tanaic sages. The Tanaic era, which began about 100 years before the temple was destroyed and continued till about 200 years after the temple was destroyed. Yeah? Make sense? Good. That is the Tanaic era. The Amaraic era was after that. They said that Amaraic sages were under the authority of the Tanaic sages. We're not going to go into why. We've had some classes where we did, but we're not going to do that now because it's irrelevant to our current conversation. All right? Let's continue. So, the first challenge... Well, first of all, before we begin the challenge, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak needs to explain why he came to his own conclusion. Why did he come to the conclusion that you in fact say the blessing on Kiddush the entire Shabbat? Right? Why did he come to that conclusion? And he says because the children of Rabbi Chia, they said that you could do Havdalah, the blessing after Shabbat, the entire week, which the Rashbam says really is only up until Wednesday. Yeah. What's that? What's correct? But the word Shabbos, even though it could mean the Sabbath, but it could also mean the entire week. Yeah. Yeah. Kulei Shabbos. So he said, yeah, correct. Again, it's not really, it's really focused on the time period. The time period of Havdalah and the time period of Kiddush, which means in other words, there's a time you're meant to make Kiddush, there's a time you're meant to make Havdalah, and if you did not do it when you were meant to do it, you can do it still even after you were meant to do it, right? As long as it's within the general period that you can do it. Of Shabbos. Correct, but Shabbos is a week. Again, I hear your diuk that he's using that terminology of Shabbos, but again, the word Shabbos in general could mean the week, the whole week. It could mean the week or it could mean the actual day of Shabbos. Meaning, you can say, as a matter of fact, you see in the Rambam very often he refers to Shabbos as the week. You know, if you tell somebody, I'm going to borrow something for Shabbos, you don't mean for the day of Shabbos, you mean for the whole entire week. Shabbos does not go to Tuesday night, no. He doesn't say a source where he gets it from? Okay, what? Where is it? Point to where it is. Where are we? Kidilikamon, as it is explained further. It doesn't say where, but over here I have a little hay. Do you have a little hay there? It says over here, Kuf Vav, Amud Aleph. Yeah. In other words, in the next week or so, we're going to do this. The next week or so, we're going to learn how we know it's up until Tuesday, including Tuesday, and that is where the Rashbam is just telling us here, so we should understand that. All right? Good. Let's continue. Now, Ravina gives authoritative challenge against Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. Yeah. Eisvei, as we said, Eisvei is a very important keyword to tell you that there's a massive challenge, an authoritative challenge against an opinion, right? Eisvei is like an alarm, ding, 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 we're about to challenge your opinion. Get ready. Yeah, Leil Shabbos, V'Leil Yom Tov. We said the evening of Shabbos and the evening of Yom Tov, you are meant to make Kiddush on the cup, but not during the day. Now he says, hold on a second, you're telling me that if you missed it in the night, you're doing it during the day. Here it tells you don't do it during the day. Right? So here is an authoritative challenge against Rav Nachman. Yeah? The Tanaic quote says you do not make Kiddush during the day. And he says that there's an option to say it during the day if you didn't say it at night. So he answers what may seem like a simple logical refutation. He says, hold on, that's only if you missed it, then you say it on Shabbos. Meaning the way you're meant to do it, you're meant to say Kiddush Friday night. If you didn't do what you meant to do, then you do it Shabbos day. And the Brisa, the Tanaic quote, is only referring to a situation where you're doing what you meant to do. If you're doing what you meant to do, you don't make Kiddush during the day. Or you don't make the blessing on Kiddush during the day. Right? So that is how he neutralizes the threat to his suggestion. All right? Then we had another one. Eisvei, ding, 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 ding. What was the second Eisvei? Yeah? It tells you very clearly that if you have food, or if you have a means of honoring Shabbat day, if you have the means of honoring either Friday night or Shabbat day, you should honor Shabbat day more than you honor Friday night, which our commentators say is referring to food. So if you have good food and you don't have enough good food for Friday night and for Shabbat day, better save it to Shabbat day, right? Good. And so comes Ravina, and he says as follows. If you, and the Mishnah itself says that if you have only one cup of wine, you should make Kiddush Friday night with the cup of wine and forgo drinking the wine in Shabbat day. Now, those of you who are a little bit like me enjoy drinking wine, right? It's nice to drink wine. And therefore, technically, we should honor Shabbat day by drinking the wine in the day over the night. Remember, we said that you should honor the day more than you do the night. So what if I had the option to make Kiddush during the day, if that was an option, and I only had one cup of wine, I should be drinking that cup of wine during the day, because then it would be honoring the day plus making Kiddush. Why is the Tanaic quote telling me that I should say it the night before and I should forgo honoring the Shabbat day with this cup of wine?
It's time.
Oh, so now you answering me the answer before we finish the question. Can I know how to cheat? Because you learned the Gamara, but that is the answer of the Gamara. So Rav Nachman responds to that and saying that it is better to do a mitzvah in its time than it is to do a mitzvah at a later time. Even if there is some type of spiritual benefit, you still should do things right away, which is a very important life lesson. If something good comes to your hands, do it right away. Don't procrastinate. Don't push it off. Don't make as if you're going to do it later. No, do it now. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Need to wait for something? You have a mitzvah, do it. Zeh. Now, Ravina challenges Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak's suggestion, but this one not with an authority, but with a logic, which means basically he's saying, well, prove to me that if you have a good deed that can be done in its time, you should do it in its time rather than doing it at a later time when you might actually gain something by doing it in a later time. Yeah?
Well, where do you learn out this halacha, like this statement from?
Not so quickly. On the contrary, he brings a Tanaic quote that would suggest
That it's not a thing. Mitzvah b'shaita is not actually a thing.
correct. He brings a Tanaic quote to suggest that we do not hold back. Sorry, we do not say do a mitzvah immediately if you can gain something by doing it later. There is a brisa that seems to indicate it, a Tanaic quote that seems to indicate that. How do we know that? We have from the person that comes home Saturday night, and he needs to make Havdalah, but he also needs to do the grace after meals on a cup of wine, and we tell him to hold off Havdalah, meaning do not do it right away when you have a chance. Hold it off so that you can do the grace after meals together with Havdalah on the same cup of wine, so you're getting two mitzvahs with one cup of wine.
And Abdullah should be done right there.
And seemingly you should be doing Havdalah immediately, ASAP. You should not be procrastinating and doing it later. Right? Which seems to indicate the hypothesis set forth by Rav Nachman that you're always meant to do a mitzvah immediately, even if there is some gain by pushing it off. Right? So, Rav Nachman needs to back himself up, and he then takes a bit of an authority stance and says, what do you think? I'm just talking out of my, my bellyache? Somebody once, there was a rabbi that was giving a good speech, right? He was giving a speech about a particular thing, and he stands up, right? And he's making some argument that was a little bit cockeyed, and one of the students raised his hand and says, you know what you're saying? It comes it's directly from Imre Beten. It's directly from Imre Beten. It sounds like the name of some type of commentary. Now, of course, this rabbi was not familiar with all the commentaries. So he thought that it was a commentary called Imre Beten. He's like, wow, I'm so happy that I teach, that I came to a conclusion similar to that of some other great sage. The guy didn't realize, what does Imre Beten mean? For all of you, any of you Hebrew speakers out there, it means the speakings of the belly. It means he's talking out of his gut. He feels like this is what he feels. Yeah, it's good. Imre Beten, the talks of the belly. Yeah. In other words, the student was trying to make fun of him. The guy didn't even realize. Ever happened to you? So, somebody's trying to make fun of you, and you're like, thank you so much for the compliment. Really, the guy's making fun of you. What's that? Yeah, say thank you for the compliment, and that's it. Yeah. Although in that case, I don't know if it was so accurate. Yeah.
If you don't know, then that's not.
What could you do? Anyways, Kenai Nahora. Let's continue. So he basically takes a stance and says, this is not coming from my belly. I clearly heard this in this study hall, and this is something that was accepted by everybody. Now, if that's the case, how does he reconcile this prosadic quote with that hypothesis? Because the prosadic quote clearly seems to reject his hypothesis, even though he's so sure of his hypothesis, because he says that he studied it in the study hall and everybody agreed with it, right? So he says that there's a difference between the beginning of Shabbos and the ending of Shabbos. The beginning of Shabbos, the quicker you do it, the better, right? Because it shows your great love for Shabbat, that as soon as you have a chance, you make Kiddush, right? Stand up in front of your family with a cup of wine, and you make Kiddush, right? I don't know what people that are not Jewish, I don't know how do you think they see this, I see a father standing in front of his whole family, the little kids, the 2-year-old, 3-year-old, takes a big cup of wine, he says a prayer on the cup of wine, and he drinks the whole cup of wine, and now, and gives everybody, all the kids get a little bit of wine too, I'm sure that some people think they would have been nuts,
Yeah.
Huh?
There's two major ones that are exactly opposite.
Yeah.
One go for a woman.
Yeah, holding it.
Religious Jews do the exact opposite.
What do you mean?
When the man goes food first, it doesn't ignore the woman. You don't open the door and watch the woman go first.
Right.
That's me.
That's true. That's actually true.
And the other one is when you eat the bread before everybody else.
Yeah.
Like people who are not familiar.
Yeah, they're like, why are you doing that? Yeah.
Just eat it yourself before you give it else. You have to explain it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But first of all, the concept in the Western world that women go first, very often in the Torah world, the man goes first, and part of that is so you shouldn't look at the woman, which might actually be why the Western world put the women first, right? Because the women in the Western world, they're so obsessed with sexuality, right? They're like, yeah. We're treating you women nice. You can go first. Really, why they're sending the women first? So they could look at look at them, The Torah world were like, no, women for your Exactly. That's why they're doing it. That's why they're doing it. Right? In the Jewish world, the man goes first. Why? Because don't look at the woman, leave her alone, She'll come in. She don't worry. The woman can handle things herself. So we don't need a. The man's like, yeah, listen, the woman can't handle things. So really, what does he want to do? Anyways. We're not going to get into this. But yeah, the craziest thing about the Western world is somehow they convinced the Western women are convinced that these men really care about their well-being.
No, the modern Western woman.
Yeah, but because they're getting smarter. The modern women are getting smarter. They're realizing that all this. Oh yeah, women will empower you and this and that. It's really all about the men. Getting what they want from the woman without. The Torah world we're tough. The Torah world is tough. What you want to get with a woman, you have to marry her. You have to agree to support her. You have to agree. As a matter of fact, you have the ksuba. Right? Do you know the ksuba? There's different opinions, but the ksuba is an automatic payment that you owe. When you get married, you automatically owe your wife. If you choose to divorce her, you automatically owe her for any reason, whatever. Unless it's literally unless she is completely breaching the marriage, like she cheats or something like that. But generally, a man gets divorced, he has to pay his wife. There's actually a difference of opinion. Some of it is about $2,000. Something is about $10,000-$15,000. Okay? Just, again, you marry a woman, that's it. If you marry a woman, you are now responsible to pay her if you decide to leave her. Right? So if you look at the actual protection of women under the Torah law, even though some people try to make it out as somewhat chauvinistic, you will see that it's actually there. It's there to really protect the women, not to pretend like it's protecting the women. And really, it's a secret way of getting the men in from the back door. Yeah.
To me, that's the craziest thing that they somehow convinced.
They convinced. No, they tried. It worked for a generation, but I think they're getting smarter. No, you should know. By the way, there's a big epic change right now. There was this older reality. You go back maybe 10, 15, 20 years, where the women were convinced that the Western world is the best place for women to live, and now they're kind of realizing that it's the exact opposite. It's the place where they're most mistreated in the entire world. You have these Arab countries where they have polygamy, where they treat their women better. They have 5 women, and all 5 women are happier than the one woman that in the Western world that with the guy that keeps on. She's bouncing from guy to guy to guy to guy because every guy promises her they're going to live with her forever, and then 2 days later they're going to live with somebody else forever. So, right? Yeah, what could you do? Anyways, I'm sorry for any Western women out there. It's a tough for you. I actually told one woman was complaining to me once online. I did spiritual coaching, right? I still do it sometimes. But a woman was complaining to me online exactly this. She's 37 years old. She knows her clock is ticking, and one guy after another is promising her kids, and then a month later he's promising somebody else kids. It's like she's like I want a family. I want kids. If in a couple of years past, I won't be able to do it anymore. And every guy promises, and so I told her she was Jewish. I told her you should join the Hasidic movement. You join the Hasidic movement, become a dedicated Jew, right? Well, find you a man. He'll get married to you, and he'll have kids right away. So.
In her early 20s, she probably had 2, maybe 3 good guys who would have married her and kept her happy.
Yeah.
And everything would have been good, but she had to find herself.
I don't know. Whatever it is, it's tough. It's very tough. I mean, I'm not saying everything's dandy in the Hasidic world. We have our problems too, but I think our problems are way less than some of the struggles that these Westerners are unfortunately challenged with. They're calling it westernly challenged. Westernly
That's
challenged.
the craziest trick they've ever
Yes.
pulled off.
What's
Convince
that?
women to sleep around. That's better for the woman.
It's better for the woman, yeah. I don't know
how they manage to
They
do that.
manage to do that. Their mind is so perverted that they manage to figure out how to pervert the woman's mind too. Man.
Well, Well, it's because if there's no absolute
Yeah.
truth, then there's relative truth. And when there's relative truth, your feelings become your personal truth. And therefore, your feelings become something that you
Yeah.
have to follow around. On
Anyways,
the whim.
we're getting a bit off topic. We have to go back onto the Talmudic stuff and not the other stuff. I'm surprised I didn't get any comments here online. Sometimes when we go into these conversations, we have like wild comments online, either yelling at me, Rabbi, you're some chauvinistic wacko, and what are you talking about? You backwards. Go back to the Stone Age. No, none of these comments over here. None of them. Can I know how to?
Well,
anyways,
most
let's.
of the world is sleeping right now. That's one thing. We could restream this later on the day, and then
No, we do what we do. That's it. We're not in CNN's business, and I don't want to be in CNN's business, right? We are in the business of teaching Talmud, and therefore we teach. And if people listen, they listen. Zel. Okay, so we pretty much neutralized the threat to Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, and at this point, we actually finished that discussion. So it's very important to realize when you're talking, when you're dealing in Talmud, when a discussion is over. The discussion is over. We finished speaking about whether or not you should say Kiddush the entire day. It seems that the Gemara is concluding that you, in fact, do say Kiddush the entire day if you missed it. Friday night, you say it the entire Shabbat. And as we did yesterday, we checked it up in the Shulchan Aruch, we checked it up in the Code of Jewish Law, and in fact, that is the final rule, that we do make Kiddush the entire day if you missed it on Friday night.
How would anybody be able to argue with this?
How would
this not be like the final pasuk?
if a different Talmud says otherwise? Yeah, meaning that no one generally, just like the Tanaic era was authority over the Amoraic era, the Amoraic era became authority over the future eras, right? So no one in the Rishonim are going to argue with a Gemara. However, very often they'll point out how one Gemara basically says one conclusion and a different Gemara may conclude the same thing. Unlike the Mishnah, which is very organized in topic, the Gemara is all over the place. Even though we are talking about Pesachim, this is talking about Pesachim, somehow we ended up speaking about Shabbos. Now there's actually a Tractate Shabbos, which you would think that this discussion really belongs there. The fact is the Gemara did not do it that way. I'm not sure if it did it like this on purpose or by accident, but that's just the way it is and you got to live with it.
The Rambam was the first one to actually organize. The Rambam was the first one to actually organize.
No, the Mishnah is pretty organized. The Mishnah was organized, and then the next one after the Mishnah probably was the Rambam, where he organized everything in topic of the laws. All right? Good. Now, once we finished concluding that discussion, now the Gemara is going to go into a sub-discussion about this Brasadic quote that we brought. Because once we had a Brisa, the Gemara is saying, well, perhaps there is something we could learn from this Brisa itself, from this Tanaic quote itself, and that's why we have either 7 or 8 Shema Minaz. These Shema Minaz are pretty much trying to tell you various things we could learn from this particular Tanaic quote. What do we learn? We learn, number one, is that even if you say Havdalah during the prayer, the evening prayer, you still need to say Havdalah on a cup. Number two, we said that a blessing requires a cup, which means the Birchat HaMazon, blessing after meals, as the Rashbam says. We're talking about blessing after meals requires a cup. Yeah. Tosfos, actually, I don't want to mix in Tosfos because that's a little bit higher than our pay grade over here. But Tosfos actually speaks about whether this requirement is when you're blessing in a quorum of 3 people or more, or whether it is even alone. Meaning, if you're literally saying Birchat HaMazon, whether you're obligated to hold the cup of wine while you're saying Birchat HaMazon and say Hagafen at the end, right? And the Tosfos goes back and forth. And it seems like the Tosfos actually thinks that you would be obligated to do it even on one cup. Meaning, even one person should do it. First of all, you have to look at what the final halacha is, right? Let's see if there's a final halacha. Do you want to look at the final halacha? Here, I'm going to send you. Go find for me Orach Chaim Kuf Pei Beis. Orach Chaim Kuf Pei Beis. We'll look it up. We'll see if that rule applies. Orach Chaim Kuf Pei Beis. Yeah. Yeah, and again, there's a machlokes between Rashi and Tosfos. By the way, very often in the Shulchan Aruch, the commentators will mention the argument itself as well. All right, we have him looking up the sources. We're going to find out right now whether it is accurate or inaccurate. On the end over here, you see this Orach Chaim, the brown ones, yeah, right there. It's either Beis or Gimel. You have to look which one has that one. Which one? Look for Kuf Pei Beis. Yeah, Kuf Pei Beis. Look for that one. Yes. Look it up. See if you got the simon over there. Kuf Pei Beis, and that's it. Now again, we're going to continue. We're going to continue while he's looking for the source. We also learn that the cup of making that you make a blessing over requires a shiur, which means a particular amount. You can't just use any amount; it has to be a specific amount. We also learn that somebody that makes the blessing must drink a little bit from the wine. Yeah, and let's finish the list. Shmamina, we also learn from here, Tamui Pogmui, that if you taste it, then it ruins the cup and you can no longer use the cup anymore. We also learned that if you tasted some food before making Havdalah, you still make Havdalah. And we also learned that you can say two different holy blessings while holding one cup, etc. You're combining the cup. And the last one is that this particular Tanaic sage was ruling according to Beis Shammai, according to the version of Rabbi Yehuda. As we say, sometimes there is a argument as to what the argument is, and Rabbi Yehuda and I believe Rabbi Meir are arguing on what the actual din is. All right? Where are you? You get to the wrong one. Where are you?
Right there.
It's Reish.
What?
I didn't say page, I said simon.
Oh, Simon.
Hold on, it might be kuf. No, it's actually in the last one.
First one?
It's in, which one is this? This is two? Wow, it's in the first book. There you go. Wrong book. You see? This is actually part of... This is probably the best part of your education. Learning how to find the research and finding the right things. Let's go. Kuf, Pei, Beis. Kuf, Samach, where are we? Kuf, Pei, Beis. Kuf, Pei, Zayin. Kuf, Pei, Vav. Kuf, Pei, Hey. Kuf, Pei, Beis. All right. Kuf, Pei, Beis. Yesh oimim shebirchas hamazon tu'una kois. There are those that say that birchas hamazon requires a cup afilu b'yachid, even on your own. Who holds that? Tosfos. Very good. Why do you think some people hold? The Tosfos holds that even if by yourself you have to do it. B'tzarech lachzer olav, and you have to do anything in your power to try to find wine if it's available. He says, according to this opinion, you shouldn't even begin eating if you do not have a cup of wine to make birchat hamazon. Meaning if he's able. Meaning if you know that you could just skip, say, one meal and you'll have a cup of wine for the next meal, better to wait, skip a meal. And in this case, if two people ate, each one would have to have their own cup because only three people are combined into one. Only three people and more are combined to be one thing. Right? You understand? So therefore, if you have one or two people, each person would have to know this is every day. Yes, 100%. And there are those that say that it only requires a cup when there is three people. There are those that says you never need a cup even if there's three people. Yeah, and the Ramah says he says, however, the best mitzvah, if you could, you should bench on a kois, and he does not say whether, the Ramah is not clear whether he's saying that you should, even a yochid should do it on a cup. All right, now we're doing a little bit halachic analysis, which is a little beyond the Talmudic analysis, but it's very interesting that you have this rule. Let's see if there's anybody over here. Yeah, let's see if there's anybody that speaks about it. There's no one major that speaks about it. The Be'er Heitiv says that the Arizal says that a Yachid should not do it on a kois. And he brings a quote from a person called Yad Aharon that also says the same thing, which is very interesting. The Ari, we're the city of the Ari right now. We're talking in the holy city of Tzfas, which is the center of the Aris, where the Ari taught Kabbalah, the Arizal. And it's very interesting that we got to a halacha where it seems that the Arizal is telling you not to do according to the opinion that one person says it on a cup. Wow. He doesn't say about two, and he doesn't say about three people or more. And the Ramah leaves that if you could, you should, right? You should do it on a cup. And as a matter of fact, seemingly, that's why even today, Rabbi Pasnak is very, very careful to try to tell people to do it on a cup. Let's see if there's anything else here. The bracha is Pesachim. Oh, so the Gra is the Vilna Gaon. He writes, Masnisi say this is a Mishnah. Perek Ches de Brachis, in Perek Ches de Brachis, Bolohem la Yain, etc. Pesachim, and in Pesachim, Kuf Hey Amud Beis, the Isa Toisvis Sham, and go look at the Toisvis. So what does the Gra says over here? The Gra says that the opinion, he's commenting on the Shulchan Aruch's opinion, on the Shulchan Aruch statement. He's saying that this Shulchan Aruch statement is based on the Tosfos on our page of the Gemara. That's where we learn, in our page of the Gemara, not in Brachas, but in our Gemara. That's where we learn. Yeah, it says, look at Tosfos Sham, Dibra Maska Shmamina Bracha V'chulu. The Chein Kosav HaRosh, the Rosh says the same thing. The Chein Maska HaRosh, the Rosh also says, etc. in Brachas. Etc. Koshel bracha bekam mekemis koshel etc. I feel beyachim bekomen bis hamazum leike amar birchas has zimun Pesachim sham etc. Yeah. This Tosfos is the source of the opinion that says that even if you are eating alone, you should still make birchas hamazon while holding a cup. Right? As I said, the Arizal says not to do it for less than three. But once you have three people, you really should use a cup of wine when you say birchat hamazon.
It's remarkable how much of the Arizal's opinions we hold by today. There's
Why?
a lot that are like Arizal made the final tweak. No?
Very often the Arizal did make final tweaks. Now the Arizal technically was a Kabbalist. He wasn't necessarily, he was a great Talmudist in his own right as well. No question about it. He learned a lot of Talmud before he became a known Kabbalist. He was a known student of the Talmud. Again, he saw things very often from a more spiritual perspective. Now, in the Torah, we don't allow a person to say go to heaven and based on what he sees in heaven determine what we're meant to do here, because the Torah was given for earth, and therefore we are the people that must determine what the Torah says and what it doesn't say. Right? As a matter of fact, if a prophet comes right now today and tells us how to interpret the Torah, we are not meant to listen to him. As a matter of fact, we could consider him a false prophet. You cannot tell us that Moses told us that this Torah was given to you, which means we were given the Torah, which means were given the rights to interpret the Torah in accordance with the structure. Now, if you don't know the structure, you don't have the right. But if you study the original structure, how to use the Torah and how to interpret the Torah, no prophet can tell you otherwise, right? And that would include a great man like the Arizal. However, in this case where you have numerous opinions, you could suggest that when you deal with a Kabbalist, he's telling you, listen, this is an opinion. It was not necessarily is it the opinion of everybody, and therefore he might direct you away from this opinion. And again, he doesn't say you shouldn't. He says better not to. The Arizal is telling you better not to. Why? Because anyways, you have the option because there's numerous opinions. And it was not, when you have numerous opinions, sometimes we conclude which opinion is more accurate than the other. In this case, we did not conclude which opinion is more accurate than the other. And since we did not conclude which opinion is more accurate than the other, therefore you have the right to go according to any of the opinions. Now, once you have the right to go according to any of the opinions, then you can have a spiritual figure who can come and say, better not to. Meaning, I see the way it's working in heaven and it's better not to, because either or you have the option. Again, if you did not have the option, he cannot tell you what the option is. But once you have an option to do one way or the other, then he can tell you, I would like to suggest you do this way. Right? That he could do, yeah.
Are we saying that we know that he's alone when he makes the bracha on the Kiddush? That he's at home, and we're saying that somehow we know that he's alone, that because we're learning out that a person we're learning out one of
You're asking me
the
how
one of the
it's
eight
basis.
things we're learning. One of the eight things we're learning is that you're allowed to make you make Birkat Hamazon on
Right.
a kos when you're only by yourself.
So I wanna
we
tell
must
you-
be learning. So in that must be telling us that somehow in our Gemara that we're learning out.
Correct,
that
correct. But we did not learn the Tosfos. But if you look in the Tosfos, he does say that. So let's read the Tosfos briefly. Shema mina bracha tuna kos. It says ksas mashma. It is a little bit understood from here that afilu b'yachid tuna kos, that even a singular person will require a cup. The hanichnas, the word hanichnas, one who comes in, mashma shu yachid. It doesn't say hanichnosim. It doesn't say plural. It says singular, one who enters. And in Hebrew, every word is strictly singular or plural, right? When you use almost, it's like in English you have like a waiter and a waitress, right? Which you have almost a similar word for male and female. In Hebrew, almost everything you say about a female, there's a completely different word. It was not completely, it's usually the same word changed a little bit, like waiter and waitress, right? But not only with male and female, also with singular and plural. There's an addition to words, whether it's singular or whether it's plural. And this word hanichnas seems to be singular, and just on the fact that this prosodic quote, this Tanaic quote, is said in singular format, says Tosfos, this seems to indicate, in fact, that you are meant to do it even if you are alone. So that's how Tosfos learns it out.
Right, so I think Tosfos is saying something even more dramatic, which is
Yeah.
saying is that this guy was at Shalom Shivis in shul with a bunch of people, and it's so important to save the coast that
Yeah.
even if he's going to go from being in a group of people, and now he's going to go do it by himself.
Right.
He should. It's so important that he.
First of all, who says he was with a group of people? How do you know?
I understand that. I'm saying that. So I'm adding that. They're saying that it must be because he's saying that even if you're by yourself, you're gonna not only are you gonna
Either or. The point is, what Tosfos is basically saying, because it says it in a singular format, therefore we're
know he's
talking about
alone.
even a guy by himself, and all these rules would therefore apply to a person by himself, which means a person by himself would hold off making Havdalah so that he can eat his meal and make a blessing
and even if he's
while
going to go
he's
from a
having the
group, even if he's going to go from a group to by himself.
No, because
he should do it.
now you're adding something that I don't understand how exactly you put the two in.
The reason why I'm saying it is because he's
Why
saying
you make weird?
that they
I'm saying
could have said
again.
They could have
You're,
said
you're theorizing, but my question is from the
from the
words
words,
over
from the
here.
words.
From the words over here, where do you see that there's more people here? That he's eaten with more people. You don't
I'm
see
saying
that
the
in the words.
Brisa went to the singular.
It didn't go to the singular. It started in the singular. It's the entire quote is in singular. Since the entire quote is in singular, Tosfos says it must be referring to a person that was alone. We never said
don't
he
know
was.
if he was
We never
alone
mentioned. We never mentioned he was with other
with
people.
before. How
We
you-
didn't mention he was with anybody. All right. You want to open up a can of worms? Please, they smell. Don't do it over here.
If Marv is optional,
Yeah.
why couldn't he have had 5 people stay there? He decides, you know what, I want to be a good Jew and have a Marv. And those people are coming in to be there. So as he enters back, there's 5 people that are sitting around the table.
And when did those 5 people daven Ma'ariv? You're saying that he daven Ma'ariv and they didn't?
It's optional at this point.
Who said it's optional at this point?
The whole entire fact that they had to bring up the fact in the first part
Yeah.
that if you say it in Abdullah, you still have to do it afterwards.
Right.
You know you always have to make Abdullah afterwards.
Right. Okay, but seemingly, even if it's optional, if one guy's going to go away to daven Ma'ariv, you think that he would be the only one and everybody else would stay?
I've had that happen.
Huh?
I don't think he davened Marv in this case yet. I think he davened.
No, it says very clearly he's coming in. What do you mean? The Gemara is actually learning from this quote that if you said Havdalah in Ma'ariv, you say Havdalah again on a cup, which means that this quote is clearly indicating when it says he's coming in, where's he coming in from? It's assuming we're talking about he's coming in from the evening prayer. He's actually said the evening prayer, he's coming in from the evening prayer.
So then you're saying that this is Malav Malcolm he's eating now?
So seemingly, according to the previous Tosfos goes into this, and I don't want to get into it, we're a little bit over time already, but the previous Tosfos goes into the fact that it seems to be that we're telling you, remember what we learned in the Shulchan Aruch a second ago, that if you, according to some opinions, if you don't have a cup of wine, you should even push off your meal. If you know I'm going to have a cup of wine in the afternoon, okay, don't eat till the afternoon, so you should have a cup of wine to make the grace after meals with, right? Now, that is partially being learned out of this brisa. Why? Because we're basically, if he's in the middle of shalosh shudas, again, the truth is it's not clear whether he was in the middle of a meal or not. It could simply be the wording. The wording seems not necessarily. On the contrary, Tosfos brings both logics and legitimizes both logics. It could very well be. It could be for the same reason that he would not be able to eat dinner if he didn't have a cup of wine, according to this opinion. And that's actually partially being learned out from this prosadic quote. And the analysis of the Talmud is that if he comes home, correct. He's going to start his meal. He's starting it. Yeah, correct. He's going to start his meal and finish it after Shabbat ended. But again, normally you're not allowed to eat. Normally you're not allowed to eat after Shabbat ends till you make Havdalah. But in this case, because you don't have a choice, seemingly. No, it's not. No. Well, first of all, it's not Shabbos is over when Shabbos is over. Here, we're telling you that here's a guy that even though Shabbos is over for him, he said Havdalah in the prayer, so Shabbat is over for him, right? Nevertheless, because this guy's stuck and he only has one cup, we say, you know what? Eat your meal so that you can bless on the cup. And by the way, that's perhaps the reason why these poskim learn out that you should even push off a meal if you don't have a cup. Because otherwise, why don't you make Havdalah on the cup you have, and then you make Birchas HaMazon without the cup? The answer is maybe you won't be able to eat if you didn't do that. If you don't, you understand? And that's why he thinks. So. So the first Tosfos, let's read the first Tosfos is short, we're going to read it, and then that will be the end, because if we just continue, we'll go bonkers, all right? Can I know how to? What's that? Why? You enjoying the class? I'm also enjoying the class. Yeah, but we have a time schedule, and you got to learn on your own, because that's where you gain most, when you're actually sitting there reading the book yourself. Okay, you should be able to sit here and give the class. I shouldn't be sitting the guy for. I have a certain amount of time I'm in this world, and that's it, right? Somebody at some point needs to take me over. Then you need to learn it. If you only learn how to listen to me, you're not going to learn how to learn it yourself. I know, that's the problem. All right. Okay. Yes. Okay. Let's go. Okay, we're going to read this Tosfos. Shema min hatami. It says we learned from here 8 things. Tema. It's a wonder. The Hava Matzi Lememer, you could have said Teisha, you could have learned, we learned 9 things from here. Shema Mino, it's taught from here, Shemutu Lecho Kodim Avdallah, you're allowed to eat prior to Avdallah, if you only have 1 cup. Ulepirish Rabbeinu Nisim, according to the Ran, Rabbeinu Nisim, the mighty, he says that it's talking about a case where he began eating during the day. Nicha, it makes sense. As I will explain, that his explanation is difficult. So Tosfos doesn't go into it, but he basically says he disagrees with that notion. He disagrees with the notion that it was shalosh shudas. Rabbeinu Nisim actually explains this, that it was talking about shalosh shudas, a lot the way that I explained it yesterday. But then after I read the Tosfos, I said I only explained it accurately according to the Rabbeinu Nisim's opinion, but not according to Tosfos. And that's that's really where the Talmud gets complicated. By the way, you should know, is when you understand the Talmud well, and then you start going to the commentators, and you realize that this exact same piece of Talmud could be learned in 3 different ways, because it's understood from different angles, and each one understands it differently, and each one is going to approach it differently, and they
all have their validity too.
And they all have their validity, and they all have their opinion. Right? As a matter of fact, one of the things that Talmud will teach you is how to get along with people that you disagree with. Because in the Talmud, everybody disagrees with everybody at some point. And no one disagrees. No one agrees with even some of the big people that agree all the time, once in a while they argue. Yeah. You can go, again, he doesn't tell you where it is. Rabbeinu Nisim is actually the commentator on the Rif. If you go to the Rif, if you have these Gemaras in the back, they have the Rif. You go to the Rif and you find Rabbeinu Nisim is on the Rif, and he would be explaining this, and then you have to compare the two. Yeah. The Rif is a Rishon, correct? Yeah. Say he was a Rishon, I don't know if he is a Rishon, I don't know how you say it properly, but yeah. Rishon means that he was from the Rishonic era.
First temple?
No, it's actually, about Rashi time, which is probably in the 13th, probably from 11 to, you could look it up on Wikipedia, they have it over there. I think it's like 11 to 1350, I don't know. There's a certain
Inquisition and the Crusades and stuff.
No, it was more the Crusades, not so much the Inquisition. Yeah. Yeah. What's that? Yeah. No, it's before. The 1500s was already the Achronim period. Yeah. No, the Inquisition was 1492. 1492 was already the Achronim period. Yeah, late 1300s already kind of ended the Rishonim period and started the Achronim period. The Arizal was definitely part of the Achronim period, and how do we know that? Because he was a colleague of the author of the Shulchan Aruch, the Yosef Cairo. He was a colleague of his. As a matter of fact, the Arizal's daughter got engaged to the Arizal. The Arizal's daughter got engaged to the son of Yosef Cairo.
Whoa.
And the reason I say he got engaged and I didn't say get married, because we don't have a record of their marriage. We only have a record of that they got engaged, right? As a matter of fact, the reason why we have a record is because I think it was. I don't remember who it was. I think it was his the daughter of the. I think it was the daughter of the Yosef Cairo that speaks about her father having a conversation with the Ari and how should I say it? How impressed he was with the Ari's knowledge on various subjects. However, there's no record of them getting married. But I want to remind you that the Arizal was only a leader in Sfas. As a matter of fact, he only was in Sfas for about 2 years. So it is likely that just think about it logically. If Rav Yosef Cairo was going to allow his son to marry the daughter of the Ari, it must be that he already developed some level of trust and prominence. I'm assuming that he wouldn't allow his son to marry a woman, a child of a man that just rocked up into Tzfas. He was probably there for, I don't know, 6 months, a year, but he had to be there. He had to be there for some time to prove his worth.
Even for them to meet.
Correct. Right, I don't think that it was like the day after he came. So probably it was 6 months, a year after he came. Now, if they got engaged in those days, say 6 months, a year. So if you look at the time period, it was very likely that the Ari passed away before the wedding. It's a theory. But I'm just saying, based on the logic that I just gave you, it seems like the Ari passed away before his daughter's wedding. And therefore, you don't really have a record of the wedding, because the whole record was based on the fact that the Ari met with Rabbi Yosef Cairo. Now he met at the engagement, but perhaps he didn't meet at the wedding because maybe he wasn't there
Is it
anymore.
possible it's like a Rizal baby starting around now?
What's that?
Possible like there's descendants of the Rizal just starting around?
There definitely are descendants. Why wouldn't there be descendants? I would assume there are. I would assume there's descendants of the Arizal. I don't know how many people know for a fact that they're a descendant of the Arizal. But it's very, very possible that there's descendants of the Arizal here today.
That'd be cool.
Why not?
That'd be really cool.
Huh? They're really cool. I've actually never heard somebody that said they were, but I don't see why not. Historically, it would make perfect sense.
How many kids did he have?
Yeah, I don't know. As a matter of fact, the Arizal, I'm not going to get into it too much, but the Arizal's history is actually very mysterious in itself. The Ari, basically, he taught a small group of Kabbalists. When he passed away, he basically put Reb Chaim Vital in charge. He said that no one's allowed to teach my teachings without the permission of Reb Chaim Vital. Reb Chaim Vital is the one that wrote most of the teachings of the Arizal that we know about. There were a few other students that wrote their teachings. Reb Chaim Vital, when the Ari passed away, he basically said no one's allowed to print the Ari's teachings for 10 years. I don't know why, but till 10 years after the Ari passes away, they were not allowed to write his teachings. Right? Now, 10 years later, Reb Chaim Vital comes out with a publication of the Ari's teachings, and so did some of the other students. right? And when the teachings came out in writing, it was sent all over the world, right? And then people started hearing about this Arizal. That's really when he became famous, right? And so only after he became famous, there were people interested in researching his life and trying to find out the history. But it's almost like it was done. So again, it's almost like the Arizal's history was purposely, it was kept a secret that we shouldn't know too much about his history. I don't know why, but and we'll leave it up to conspiracy theorists to guess. I don't do guessing. Yeah, it was an interesting fellow. Yeah. Anyways, so again, whatever we know about the Arizal is somewhat limited. All right, we'll end there the class. Is there anybody interested here? I don't know. By the way, when you put that thing on, could they see it or no? When you put the R thing, the R.
No, the show.
Oh, that just means, I posted.
But where do they see it?
As your channel posting that chat
Oh,
comment.
okay. So if you look in a chat comment, you'll see there's a WhatsApp group. If you join the WhatsApp group, you will be notified when we make the class.
On Kick and your Facebook group,
Okay.
they can't see that comment.
If you know, in Facebook, you can message me and I'll send you a link to the WhatsApp group, which will tell you and remind you when we start the class so you can keep up with our class. We will also be sending Bezrat Hashem various different
QR code
things that are for what? What are you making it?
for the WhatsApp group.
QR code. Can I know how to? Anyways, let's do it tomorrow so we finish here. But yeah, if you join the WhatsApp group, we'll keep you in touch. We'll send you some of the worksheets that we have, and you can ask me questions, not directly on the WhatsApp group because we're not letting anybody messages except for me, but you can reach out to me on WhatsApp if you have any questions. You can message me on the various different platforms, and thanks for joining. Shmuel, we'd love to have you, and we'd love to have everybody else that's here as well, and please continue joining our class and spreading it to your friends so that you can join the ritual of the Talmudic sages together with us and get your brains fried like mine.
We've got 1 day left in your class.
1 day left. There you go. Oh, you have a QR code right now on the video, which if you go there, if you click that QR code, we'll give you another 10 seconds. You can join our WhatsApp group directly from the QR code. Yeah, what?
They could donate to the Yeshiva Wine Fund.
They can donate to the Yeshiva Wine Code?
Wine Fund.
Wine Fund? I don't know. There's a wine
That's a
fund.
different QR code. They can't see that one.
No, they can't see that one. We're starting a wine fund.
Producing, huh?
You make a cup after every Birkat
You
Hamazon.
need a cup of wine after Birkat Hamazon. So this morning we were talking about, there were three of us, we didn't do it on thing, and we were like,
You did
okay,
it?
now let's start.
Did you do it with a cup?
No, we didn't.
Oh, because you couldn't find the
You need
cup.
wine.
Yeah?
You need wine. You have 20 bottles of wine. Always in
You didn't have wine. You know, this is we're gonna get in big trouble this year. Like, look, you bring our kids to your class. You bring our kids to your class, and then all of a sudden they're drinking wine every single meal.
10:30 in the morning.
Man, these wacko Hasidic people. What's wrong with you guys? Hasidic people. Sure, yeah. Huh?
Is grape juice okay? I think it tastes
I don't know. You really shouldn't. It should be wine. Anyways, that's that. Use the QR code to join the WhatsApp group. You can subscribe. You can message me, and have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Sei
You make an
gesund.
olive on grape juice?
Yeah, what?
You make an olive after blessing on grape juice?
I would assume you